week ago today, Maui took over the headlines for the unprecedented fire, what some media sources said was the worst fire in American history. And again, the headlines have just been so bizarre ever since this news broke. And, this was yesterday. It's in today's news, but the statement was made yesterday. Of the 106 remains found, only 5 were identifiable. And they had people on saying that it looks like the victims look like they got hit by Pompeii. And of course, Pompeii was the volcano that exploded in August in history, but instantly, or Vesuvius was the mountain that exploded, and Pompeii was the town right by Vesuvius that got the brunt of the disaster, and the people were turned instantly into essentially ash and dust. So you have the news media saying that, these people have been charred, impossible to get the remains, and they're showing you Maui melted with trees around the melted buildings, and we've been looking at scenes like this for years now. I mean, we've been talking about this since at least Paradise, California, November 8th, 2018, which we're coming up on the 5-year anniversary. So we've been looking at scenes like this now, where we live in this day and age where the media presents this to us, but there's no real investigative journalism, and they don't, ask the same questions that seemingly you and I'd be asking. How can that building be? How did a forest fire with that rapidly spread because of the winds of Dora that didn't make landfall? How did the heat of that fire melt still? You guys, I'm going to read this article, and right in the beginning, they reference how it looks like the scene of 9/11. Remember, there was a lot of energy involved in 9/11 because cars blocks away were melted as those buildings turned to dust as they fell into their own footprint, and seemingly like a miracle didn't tip over and crush all the other buildings around it. But we're going to look at all of this, and as we do it, if you guys have time, if Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, if he has some social media profile on some platform you're on, if you can tweet at him to answer these questions. I'm not blaming Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, but what I want to talk about is what's really going on in this world. Because I've been looking for answers to questions that just aren't there in the mainstream ever since I was 18 years old and September 11th happened. And anyhow, what we're going to talk about in this video is predictive programming through entertainment, things that end up becoming the real news that were previously just in a fictional scenario. And as we'll get to, Maui, the Polynesian fire god. The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, recently played Maui in the Moana film that came out in 2016, 1 year after his San Andreas film. By the way, Maui, the Polynesian god, they are the god of fire and earthquakes. The Rock's also been in this big earthquake movie. But anyhow, at the beginning of this year, 7 years after the animated film, on April 3rd of this year, very symbolic day, April 3rd, as we'll get to. They say a very special thing happened on that day in history. Science came up with that around 2012. We'll get to it because it all points to what we're talking about. But on April 3rd, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson announced that there'll be a live action Moana. And I couldn't believe when I started to watch the trailer. I felt like I was watching the news of Maui. Anyhow, we'll watch it here in a second. We'll watch just the beginning of the trailer because I've even been getting my videos taken down for showing movie trailers. That was something I was always able to get away with. In the last year or so, when I show parts of a movie trailer, my videos are getting taken up for copyright. It's like, really? I can't even show a trailer? We'll show a small segment of the trailer from the upcoming Moana live action, and right away it's going to get into the ancestors of the land and then a terrible fire on the island. And isn't that the exact story we're hearing out of Maui? But yeah, we're going to, again, talk about Disney, who makes this film series, Hollywood in general, Pepsi, who, again, has the Maui Burst flavor that was also brought to stores in 2016, the year the Disney movie came out. And just think about it, the movie theater with your tub of popcorn and your big old Pepsi, unless it's that competitor and you got your Coca-Cola. But if you don't know, Pepsi is the biggest food company in North America. We're going to, again, go over all of this more efficiently than we have in other videos. But I want to talk about how perfect not only this fire that just happened in Maui, how perfectly synced it is with The Rock, who plays the character Maui for the huge Disney franchise that's being remade. And by the way, you guys, the live action remake's going to come out in 2025, the year that we've been pointing to for, it looks like, the year that the Cabal has marked the X. If you're new here, what I show is who the Cabal is and what happened in the 16th century with the Jesuits and Europe, and then the formation of this country afterwards, and who really came over here and made sure that nobody was escaping Europe, and Europe's form of tyranny was going to spread across the world, which is exactly what's happening, which is what's going on right now, and which is what the people of the world need to wake up to. Again, instead of us spending all of our time and energy on a weekend giving away our wealth and our time to go watch the latest Disney release that might be predictive programming for the next Maui, we need to understand what's really going on, what Walt Disney really is, the brand at this point. Arguably the biggest brand in the world. What Hollywood is and who controls it. What these food companies are. Again, are they only in the business of profits, or is it more than that now? You know, are these the same companies, part of this cabal that owns the Federal Reserve and controls people with money? And these people, they have so much money and access. Well, they don't even need money. They control the money system. They're the power keepers of the world. What are these people really doing right now? What is the real purpose of these companies? Is it to maximize profit? I mean, it doesn't seem like it for Budweiser, who's another part of this cabal as we've talked about. Man, they're losing all the profits. But again, what is going on at this moment in time, and what is really being done, and what are these companies that we do give our time and our money to? I just met my new neighbor, and right after she moved in, she said moving was so stressful. She said her favorite detox in the world is to fly down to Disneyland. It makes her feel like a kid again. She's almost the same age as me. You know, I just turned 40. She's probably 5 years older than me. And I was just like, that is exactly, I didn't say anything bad. I was like, well, hey, have a great trip. You know, that's what I said. But in my mind, I'm thinking something else. She's a school teacher too, you know? And it's just, you know, these people mean the best, but they don't see what the world really is. They don't understand how dark it is, how nefarious it is. These are the people that just mean well. They want to live a decent life. They want to give back to their community, teach their kids, go support their favorite enterprise as a child. So again, I'm really making this video for someone who is like my teacher, or, you know, like my neighbor, the teacher who goes to Disneyland anytime she gets stressed out, which is probably something a lot of Americans do. They would not be doing this if they had better information, because they'd realize what Disney really is. And maybe some people couldn't handle it, and they'd be at the pharmaceutical line with even more anti-anxiety pills. But anyway, we need to find the demographic of Americans who can handle the information, the truth of what's going on in this world, and stop supporting these enterprises. And not just stop supporting them, but also then forming, instead of millions of people rushing into the theater or turning on Netflix to support the latest film, or Disney Plus, or whatever it is, instead of millions of people doing that at once like a movement, millions of people at once going out and being like, you know what, instead of spending 2 hours on the couch, I'm going 2 hours out in my city to raise what just happened to Maui, because I don't want Maui to be the next, or I don't want there to be another Maui, period. I don't want my neighborhood to be the next Maui. I don't want anybody's neighborhood to be the next Maui. And it's not just the U.S., you guys. It's a world agenda, what's going on right now. And other places have been getting tastes like this, and we don't hear as much about it. We care more about it when it's America. And this time it's Hawaii, the 50th and final state that was secured for military purposes. And again, our military has been admitting to weather warfare since Vietnam. And doesn't that scene right there that they keep showing that I have in the thumbnail, doesn't that scene remind you of Vietnam, or at least all the Vietnam Hollywood scenes you've seen? Napalm, military technology. Napalm first used at the end of World War II in Dresden. The U.S. and the Royal Air Force of the U.K. killed hundreds of thousands of war refugees who did not want to be part of the war, just burned them all up with the experimental use of napalm. Again, Kurt Vonnegut, the author, made it a point of how he lost total faith in his country because he was there to see it with his own eyes as an American soldier, and he never looked at America the same way again. How could my country, my military, drop napalm on people who want nothing to do with the war and kill hundreds of thousands over? And you know what? That started on the 44th day of the year, Lupercalia. We're going to get to 44 and where it connects The Rock and Maui and Moana. And remember how on the anniversary of the harp, we'll come to it all. For people who don't know anything about anything, let me not get ahead of myself. Let's go through this piece by piece. And I think right here is where I got to start. I got to play just I'm scared about how many seconds I can get away with before they try to take down the video in this age of censorship where they're just looking for a reason. I'm going to try to get away with about 7 to 10 seconds of the Moana live action film coming out that The Rock announced at the start of this year. Again, here we are on an island. It's a different island, right? Because it's Polynesia. And hey, Polynesian people, you better look out because this Moana series is about Polynesia, and Maui's the Polynesian fire and earthquake god, and just really the whole world because this shit's going on all over. But watch this. Look at how this trailer begins. Maybe I better get the... if they take this video down, I'm going to be annoyed. We'll try to get away with more like 15 seconds. That's all we need. Watch.
For generations, this peaceful island has been home to our family. But beyond our great danger is coming.
Okay, that's all I'm going to show. Watch the rest of the trailer, but we got the island. First, it's getting pummeled with fire. Then it's getting pummeled with rain. Remember how the ritual's perfectly synced with Maui's flooding on March 8th, 2021, and the fire exactly 29 months later on August 8th. Again, we just covered that in recent days. We'll go back over it. But that just happens to be the beginning of Moana. Now, we're going to read this article, and then I'm going to bring it all really together. And it's a theme that I've been talking about forever. Hawaii, Pearl Harbor, the new Pearl Harbor 9/11. Pearl Harbor date December 7th, 127. Buildings 1, 2, and 7 fell on 9/11, creating the ground zero site. Again, I'm always talking about these things. The historical theming in the number 127. What I'm about to get to is how from the day that Rock announced that movie for that trailer, from that day to the burning of Maui was 127 days later. And again, there's a lot more to it. It totally connects Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which isn't too far from Hawaii. Again, this Maui thing just happened between the anniversary of Hiroshima, August 6th, and Nagasaki, August 9th on August 8th. Again, Hawaii was secured for the military strategy with Japan. And remember, Pearl Harbor, kamikaze Japanese pilots, 9/11, kamikaze pilots. Anyway, we got to read this article, and then I'm going to bring it together. Look how messed up this is. And we'll explain why they gave us the number 106, as they told us this really, I mean, just unbelievable detail if you're just thinking about it. I mean, a natural fire... I mean, was Maui just densely packed with... I mean, it doesn't make sense because the trees didn't burn. People have to be thinking about what's going on. None of these scenes make sense. These people are burned so bad from a wildfire they can't be identified? Are we sure they weren't on the Bikini Islands when a nuclear bomb went off in the original days of testing where the term bikini came from for a bathing suit because nothing was hotter? Anyway, look at this, you guys. I just started to read this morning, and I just got mad. I got mad that the world doesn't know what we've been teaching about, what I've been writing books about for a decade. Because, like, that's been the whole thing since I was 18. I saw 9/11. I knew it was a lie. I knew it was some kind of crazy military technology, and I thought, man, who could be next? Who could be next? Then what will be the story? What will the story be? Look at this. Identifying those killed in the Maui wildfires will be very difficult and likely take weeks, Hawaii's governor said. By the way, you just got your new governor. Maui burned up on his 247th day in office. How old is the United States of America right now? 247, right? I'm going to show you where that goes with the 9/11 thing. And another pattern we've been documenting all year with all the 247 rituals since the Illuminati turned 247, May 1st, 2023, and then America turned 247 right after that, July 4th. 2023. Again, the Illuminati, founded by the Jesuit Adam Weishaupt. Maui, the latest about how they can only identify 5 people on the Jesuit order's birthday. The first act of weather warfare admitted to on the Jesuit order's birthday, August 15th, 1952. If you're new to my work, you're going to learn about 52 and why it matters that The Rock turns 52 next year on May 2nd. Huge pattern. But look at this. A genetics team will help identify victims, Hawaii Governor Josh Green told CNN, as around 185 search and rescue workers. This was said on his 185th day of his age. And we're going to get to where 185 matters. It's a huge number with 9/11. But look at this. Look at the next paragraph. This is the power of having the knowledge I have and looking at the news. Anyone who does not understand at least as much as I do about gematria and this cabal is at a disadvantage every time they read the news, because every day this is being done. That's why I teach this every day, so people can see the mockery and the repetitiveness and what the people who really rule over us are getting away with. If people understood as much as I did, they wouldn't be going to Disneyland. They wouldn't be supporting these theaters. They wouldn't be, misled by the news and their false puppet leaders that serve something that's much bigger than America. But look at this. As around 185 search, and again, on his 185th day of his age, this is saying, his birthday's February 11th, 185 search and rescue workers and 20 cadaver dogs continued to comb through the ashes of homes and businesses incinerated by the deadliest U.S. wildfire in more than a century. Incinerated. This is much like you see in a war zone, or what we see with 9/11, Green said on The Source with Caitlin Collins. Don't remind me who just got the, if you didn't know, before the World Trade Centers come down, they were always owned by the Port Authority, which is essentially the city. And then coincidentally, right before they came down, a very wealthy man who might be related to Josh Green, you just don't know, Larry Silverstein. He just happened to get the lease and bought a huge, expensive insurance payout in case there's anything happened, and made a whole bunch of money off 9/11. And oh, man, these Jesuits, it reminds about their history. They're half, this religion and half this religion. But, and again, it's not to blame those religious groups. It's just to say the history of the Jesuits, and it becomes kind of easy to identify who's in the network when stuff like this is going down. But like we've said a million times, 9/11 happened 185 days after Osama bin Laden's birthday. And notice the gematria of World Trade Center. If you're new here, gematria is based on the alphabetic order forwards and backwards with numerology. World Trade Center is 185 with the alphabetic order. Osama bin Laden's birthday, March 10th, kind of like 10-3, like Pan Am 103, the other big, airplane terrorism event in world history before 9/11. But then Osama's birthday to 9/11, 185 days going with World Trade Center. And that number's not arbitrary. Again, my first book, I write about where I think 185 comes with and how it relates to the human being. And of course, mathematics in the Catholic Church. It's a number that gets used. That's why they had to mention the 185 people on his 185th day of his age as he compares it to 9/11. And didn't I just say where this whole thing fit in with Sodom and Gomorrah and Obama's birthday and gay rights and the mockery that they do? I know it can be too much for people to understand, but again, if you have enough processing power, you can see that what I've been teaching for a decade is right. And we've been shining the light on all the right places. That's why we've been censored and deleted and shadow banned to death. And that's why we need more people to get out and fight. By the way, you guys, part of the reason plans have been uncertain for what I'm going to do for the 9/11 anniversary, I think I'm actually going to be here in Seattle for that anniversary. But I want to, and it's probably not going to be the day of 9/11, but shortly after 9/11, close to that, I'm trying to make it work that I can fly out to Hawaii. I've never been to Hawaii in my life, and it's not going to be much of a tourist trip. It's going to be there like I do when I go to all these cities. Just like I've never been to New York before. I spent the whole time speaking out. But go to Maui and teach about everything I'm going to say, but I'm going to put it into some handouts and just the most simplest way. If you've ever watched me preach on the corner, I'll stick to one number and one pattern. And, we might have a few different slides for different segments of the corner, but really pound home 3-4 points, because there's a lot that can be pounded home, and I've hardly even gotten anything yet. But again, notice World Trade Center's 185 forwards. We talked about that. 247 in reverse. Again, the U.S. is 247 years old right now, and Maui just burned up on the 247th day of the governor being in office as he gloats, or not gloats, but goes out and uses, 9/11 and the 185. There are people that are aware of this knowledge beyond yours. That's what I hate that people come and accuse me. They're like, oh, Zach's just making it all connect because he studied so well. It's like, what kind of logical conclusion is that to come to about my work? I started looking at this because for a decade I saw that they were using numbers ritualistically in the news, starting with September 11th, 2001, a national emergency on 911 that didn't make any sense. But if you're new here, these 4 ciphers, I just want you to know, World Trade Center 77. If you write out September 11th as words, it's 77. The Pentagon attack was all about 77. Flight 77 hit the 77th Meridian West. 77 minutes after taking off on the anniversary of the Pearl Harbor, or on the anniversary of Pentagon construction beginning on September 11th, 1941, right before Pearl Harbor. The governor also talked about 41 things of DNA in this. Anyway, 185 was huge in the 9/11 ritual. 77 was huge in the 9/11 ritual. United States also equals 77. It was a day that changed America, D.C., the capital's on the 77th meridian. I've never talked about 247 in the World Trade Center, I don't think ever, but it's really coming into focus right now with this ritual that they've just done, and now the governor, here, there might be the person out there that's like, I don't believe that it was his 247th thing. Okay, here, Governor of Hawaii, let's get him up here, Josh Green. Josh Green, might be related to No More News. Let's see. Remember Adam Green, who plays this character online? He got back from Israel, and the first thing he did after he got back was he had me on, but then he attacked my work, and it's like, oh, that was weird. Anyway, a lot of people think he's legit. I don't know about that. Josh Green became governor of Hawaii, the 9th governor on December 5th. Oh, man, we're going to talk about that 9, too. We're going to talk about that 9. But 2022, he just assumed office at the end of last year. 8/8/2023 was his 247th day in office, while the country's 247, and so is the Illuminati, again founded by the Jesuits. So again, just look at it. And the only World Trade Center number I haven't hit yet is 94. Well, they opened on April 4th, 73, the 94th day of the year. Remember, the word terror is 94 and 68, like how everything went into motion in 68. World Trade Center construction, 911, the emergency dialing code, 2001, A Space Odyssey, the New York Jets' only Super Bowl winning season, Muhammad Atta, the lead hijacker born in 68, the first Muslim head coach in the NFL now for the Jets at this moment in history. There's a reason for all this, you guys. Terror's also 41, like I was just saying. 9/11/2001 had 41 date numerology. Pearl Harbor happened in 41. USA is also 41. Coming back to this article, the 41 thing. Family members of missing people had provided 41 DNA samples, county officials said. This whole thing is coded with the numbers that we've always educated about with 9/11. And again, the naysayer would come and be like, well, you also talk about 201 and 9/11. Yeah, I do, and it makes sense, doesn't it? If the numbers are a language, it's like, for all the people who come with these kind of arguments, they're almost arguing that verbal language, we should only be limited to speaking in 3 words total to describe everything. Fire, boom, bang day. It's like, the reason we have language and this code, why do organizations like the Jesuits also call themselves the Jesuit Order and the Society of Jesus? And seemingly all of the numbers that relate to that will stack in these rituals over and over, and it'll come back to the dates. Always. Like August 15th, the day they presented this, was the Jesuit Order's birthday. Look, you guys. You see how ground zero, again, is 127? Buildings 1, 2, and 7 fell in 9/11. It was compared to Pearl Harbor, kamikaze pilots, events that started huge wars. But Pearl Harbor, December 7th. Okay? Again, this Moana film, the announced 127 days before this, the trailer begins with the island burning. And I was already making the point about how it's clearly connected to Pearl Harbor history. There was other ways to see that. But okay. Here's the Moana, the announcement date, April 3rd. Let me scroll down so you can see this. I know I got it in here. We'll talk about Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, being 51 right now, too. The Rock can be an island. But right here, beginning of the year, April 3rd, 2023, Moana live-action remake set at Disney with Dwayne Johnson returning. Dwayne Johnson announced a new live-action remake of Moana during the Disney shareholders meeting on April 3rd. So they were talking money, business. Now, I want you guys to think about that. If these films are meant to condition our minds that, man, this is kind of the world we're living in right now, good thing we have a government that wants to solve the problems. I guarantee I go talk to I bet the lady over there I bet you anything, without knowing her that well, she's a nice American lady. She's going to Disney because she's stressed out after the move. It helps her feel better. She's a teacher. She is on summer break, but she's about to go back to school, I suppose. Well, actually, teachers have a lot of stuff to do even in the off season. They make teachers keep up with continual schooling and training now. It's like they want everybody stressed out. But I was gonna say, I bet anything she's watching all the donations in the news to donate to the Moana victims on all the news stations right now. Text in to donate this much, call this much to donate this, hit this website to donate this. We all these ritualistic horrible things that happen. We see the major fundraising, and it's exploiting people's goodness, right? That's why people have to wake up to the system. They have to stop closing their eyes and putting the blindfolders over. They have to understand what people like me have been teaching for a long time is not wrong. It would be impossible for me to keep talking about the same stuff over and over. To make a further point about what's been done here, this movie was announced on April 3rd. Very special day to the Society of Jesus, the Jesuits who are doing this. Again, their legacy is the Templars. The Templar legacy is Demolay and Disney. All of this stuff goes back to Rome. But April 3rd is supposedly the crucifixion date for Jesus. This was found in the 21st century, this Jesuit takeover century. Again, this was the news around 2012-ish. Big news that was Jesus' crucifixion date. And just to explain, again, we're on a calendar that's after the Catholic Church, and we're on a language that's credited to a Catholic monk, and the calendar and the language were standardized at the same moment in the 16th century after the establishment of the Jesuits, some decades earlier in that same century. But crucifix is 93, right? God's Son is 93. God's Son 93, Nazareth 93. The 930th chapter of the Bible is where the crucifixion begins. Somebody's trying to call in right now. Rich, I see your call right now, but let me be done before you call in. I'll take your call eventually. Nazareth 93, and again, 930th chapter of the Bible is where the Christian section begins. In Sumerian gematria, which is just multiplying the alphabetic order times 6, look at Christianity. Christianity, 930, right? So they got to tell you on this calendar that Jesus was crucified on the 93rd day of the year. Now, I'm just establishing the significance of that day to the Jesuits. Again, Maui, and how nobody can hardly be identified because they were turned to it was like a volcano hit them. Again, this news is coming out on the Jesuit Order's birthday. Now look, they founded the Order of Illuminati, which we'll come to. That's another 93. The Order of Illuminati is essentially Catholic Jesuit. They're a sun cult. They say the sun is 93 million miles away. The sun is fire. Maui just burned up. Sun gods. Things that are hot. Look at how atomic bomb is 93, right? The atomic bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki August 6th, August 9th. Okay? Maui, not far from Japan, gets it between the anniversaries of those dates. And the last pilot to drop the bomb on Nagasaki, he was 93 years old. There was a big deal about how he was 93, the last pilot to drop the bomb. The World Trade Centers in Manhattan had the 93 bombing, the 93 World Trade Center bombing. They blamed it on the blind sheik. 93. So, 93, the bomb. Japan's 93 as well. We've been talking about, again, these are separate lessons that we've each taught a million times. Jesus in 93 in the Bible, and where the Jesuits fit in. And 9/11, 93 World Trade Center bombing, Hawaii, Japan, parallels, New Pearl Harbor, 127, all this stuff taught so many times. See, my frustration right now and why I haven't been able to finish my last book for the last 3 years is I write it and I like it, and then I always go to the thinking of like, but what about the people who don't get it? Is this still too complicated? It's like I feel like as I'm presenting this video, all of this needs to be understood, but I just know how people are at the same time too. The same ones that love Disney and watch the news and vote and think everything's a conspiracy theory that they don't want to hear about. You know, it's just like, it's like, how do you reach these people? Can they be reached? Maybe that's exactly what we're witnessing as this stuff's happening at this moment in history. They don't expect anything more from us than to eat their junk food and consume their entertainment. And until they're fully ready to move on from our labor and what we contribute to the system, you know, for the meantime, they'll just keep us right where we are because that's how the majority of people are. until they do the next Maui to you. And now you're ash, and nobody can even recognize you, not even your mama, because you're a pile of, black soot from the wildfire that they're getting away with talking about in the news. The same news where nothing ever made sense. I was 18 years old when they didn't know shit about 9/11, but they already had all the terrorist passports. They'd recovered them from the rubble. They couldn't find the plane or anybody else, but they had all the terrorist passports. Literally like some prop news anchor person holding up a passport talking about this supposed terrorist who just did this horrible thing to our country because they hate us for our freedom. Oh, I'm sure that's what happened that day as Bush just got in, and now we're going right back to the part of the world where his father was when he was president, after he just got snuck in after the brand new Hollywood release of The Skulls about Skull and Bones. R.I.P. to what happened to Paul Walker, who starred in that movie, gets a red Porsche in the movie, dies in a red Porsche in a weird way, 5 years to the day of Papa Bush, the first Skull and Bones Bush president. But again, Hollywood back then, giving us the movie right before Bush gets elected, number 43 in the state, where his brother was the 43rd governor of Florida, where he was on 9/11, where Tom Brady went down to at age 43 in the scripted NFL, where everybody's going to Disney World after they win the big game. Where you going, Tom? I'm going to Disney World. People are under a magical spell. It's funny. For me, this is just mind-blowing because when I was an 18-year-old, I couldn't figure out what was going on. I knew there was something about numbers, and I was being lied to, and I'm just trying to make sense of everything as an 18-year-old and only knowing what you know, which isn't a lot. But I came to the conclusion that, maybe magic was a real thing, because it seemed to me that everybody was under a spell. Everyone was just going right along with the 9/11 story, which was the most obvious lie there ever was. And people were getting mad at me for questioning everything and pointing out things that didn't make sense. I was researching it, questioning it, trying to find out all I could, trying to talk to people. Everybody's getting mad. Everybody's getting mad. You sound crazy. I sound crazy? Our nation's a military empire. They know how to make big bombs. We made the big bomb, Manhattan. But anyway, look at this, you guys. We haven't even got to the sickest part about why they said 106 people. 106 people, they can only identify 5. The rest they've all been cremated from the wildfire. Got cremated in their homes. Burned everything to dust. Don't ask me how the tree's still standing over there. Okay, look at this. Look at this. Let me get the right post up here. Did I scroll through all of it? Okay, we hit the 93rd day of the year, 127 days later. Pearl Harbor, the new Pearl Harbor. The governor with this mockery comparing this to 9/11. 106, you guys. Nuclear bomb 106, right? This is the evolution of the Manhattan Project. The nuclear bombs were tested down in the Bikini Islands, also not too far away. This is the part of the world that we acquired for military purposes, and there's been a lot of bomb testing down there. What I'm saying is, this is a military weapons test. I can't call it a test. This was a live action. Yeah, just like Moana, it was a live action. They did this on a town where people were, and because of the bullshit-ass media that we have that's never held accountable by the brain-dead people who watch it and believe it, who watch Anderson Cooper tell you you're not a real man if you don't get down with the Pfizer rushed-out jab. You're not a real man, says Anderson Cooper. And then it goes to commercial. This segment sponsored by Pfizer. I mean, that's where America is right now. They're not seeing how obviously controlled all this shit is in the American corporation. Like, what is America really? A giant military weapon for world control that uses all these schemes to control, including mind control, seemingly the biggest weapon of all. But isn't it funny that nuclear bombs 106? And remember, that's been the thing for the last decade, to start calling storms nuclear. Remember, that was never going on. And then lately, nuclear storm. Oh, a nuclear storm causing a... What other terminology they use? Some bomb cyclone. A bomb cyclone. Bomb cyclone? You guys, our government admitted to weather warfare testing. This has been something that the president has been talking about for a long time. JFK gave it in a positive light in 61 on September 25th. JFK, September 25th. Remember, Public Enemy put out What You Gonna Do When the Grid Goes Down on September 25th, and the big ritual that was synced up with the Valentine's Day blackouts that went from Houston to Portland to Atlanta. But JFK, he gave the nice side of how weather control was this thing in the future that was going to save the world. It might have been exactly what he thought was going to happen. Didn't realize the psychopaths are going to take over and say, no, we're not going to save the world, man. We're going to save our own ass and create the world we want. Biblically coded, man. We're getting rid of all you goyim turds. We've sold enough popcorn and Disney movies and Pepsi soda to you. We got the AI to replace you. Anyway, nuclear bomb, and also the fact that in the news they're comparing it to Pompeii. And we're right up on the Pompeii anniversary. The victims look like they got hit by Vesuvius from Pompeii. That's why they can't be identified. I mean, are you kidding me? This is what I'm saying they're doing. These people are clever as hell. This is evil genius. Paying tribute to history. And all roads lead to Rome. Where's Vesuvius at? So look,